Hey everybody, welcome to Country Girl. Today's video I'm going to be doing a collaboration with Bargain Beauty, and I will put a link to her channel in my description box below. In addition to myself, there's a little over 20 other people that's going to be participating in this fall DIY with Bargain Beauty, and so she will post a link to their channels in her description box so that you can check those out as well. So stay tuned so that you can see how I put this together, and I hope you enjoy watching. Okay, so I'm going to show you some items that you're going to need to make this Halloween wreath. First of all, you are going to need to get a foam wreath from the Dollar Tree. And you will also want to pick you up some of these Halloween ornaments. I did purchase these a while back, so if you are having trouble finding them, they have put out all of their Christmas ornaments in my Dollar Trees. And you can always pick up some of those and then spray paint them the colors that you want to use for your wreath. I also picked up some ribbon. Now, this isn't a requirement. It's just something that I choose to do. And as far as like what's on it, it really doesn't matter. It's not really going to be seen. I just wanted something dark because I am going to wrap it around the foam wreath. So if there is any little spaces in between, that it will not be as noticeable. I wanted to give myself some options. I may not use all of this, but I wanted to have a variety of different things that I could use. I did not make this wreath ahead of time. So I am making this as I am filming. So I do not know what I will or will not use. However, at the end of this video, I will post the exact materials that I used. And I would say that this wreath is probably going to run around $15 to make on your own, even using Dollar Tree products. Now these things here, this is some pipe cleaner I picked up. And then this is just a little garland. It's like a Halloween garland I got from the Dollar Tree. And so I'm going to use these as fillers as well. Like I said, I may not use both of them, but I did want to have that handy. And then I was needing some smaller ornaments to put in the center. And so I saw these string lights at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pop those off and use those as the smaller ornaments. And so I think that's all. Okay, I did forget to mention that you are going to need to have a glue gun and some glue sticks, and you may want to purchase you a new bag of glue sticks because when I made a wreath similar to this before, I think I used quite a lot of glue sticks. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this ribbon around this foam wreath. And I'm doing this just because, like I said, in case there is any small gaps in there, I just don't want to be able to see the foam. But, you know, it is not a big deal. You can always, you know, fill in anything with the fillers that we have. So I'm just going to wrap this around, and I'm going to continue to wrap it. It doesn't have to be neat or anything like that. I think I'm only going to need one of these, actually, which is a good thing. That'll save us $1. Oh yes, this is going to be plenty. That worked out absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to take, you know, this when I get done, and I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to glue that down to secure that. And be careful anytime you're using hot glue. This ribbon is thin, and so pushing it down, the glue will come through a little bit. So just be careful when you're doing that. And you don't have to worry about your ornaments not sticking because this is thin and the hot glue will bleed through the ribbon. It will go onto the foam underneath and will attach and adhere your ornaments. Now, one of the things that I like to do before I start gluing them on is I want to get a pattern as to what kind of colors and everything that I want to use and how I want to use it. So I took all of my ornaments out of the little cases that they come in, and I'm just going to position them, and I'm not going to take these little tips off. Instead, I'm just going to turn them down because you're not going to see the back of the wreath when it's hanging up. So I'm just going to set these out how I want them to look. So anyway, this is how I've got this and how I want it to look. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down to the outside edge before I start placing any more on my wreath, because if I start placing the other ones and how I want them to go, then these are going to start moving around and roll off the table. And you want to watch your spacing too. Your ornaments are not going to touch each other. You want to have just a little bit of space in between them, because if you get them too close together when you're gluing them down, then you're going to end up with a big gap at the very end, and you don't want that to happen. And so what I'm going to do, and you also want to look and see where it's going to touch your wreath. So this little point here is going to go down kind of like underneath the back side. So the main point of contact is going to be right above this little piece here. So I'm just going to put me some glue there, and then I'm going to stick that on. And don't worry about the little strings that come off on your glue stick, because you can take a hair dryer afterwards and blow over that, and it does shrink all these little these little wispy glue pieces and gets rid of them. And so I'm just going to do this all the way around the wreath, and then I'll start laying out my inner ring. I went ahead and glued all the outside pieces down, and these are not glued. I was just sitting here trying to come up with an arrangement of how I was going to glue these. So I did pop these little smaller ones off of the light bulbs and put them in the center, and then I just kind of like took the rest of mine and moved it around, replaced a couple of the balls with the little jack-o'-lanterns or the little pumpkins, the little purple pumpkins. So I like the way that looks. I may leave that, I don't know. So it took me a little bit of playing around with this wreath to figure out how I wanted to do this, because I was starting to think that I wasn't going to have enough ornaments to fill this up. Sometimes it's just like working a puzzle. You just kind of have to put stuff together and rearrange it until it fits the way you need it. So I'm going to move all these out, and then I'm going to start to glue those down. Now, a good idea to do is once you get in place where you want them to be, I would take a picture of your wreath with your camera, so that if you need it to refer back to, you can, and you'll know where to place those. So, like I said, right now I'm just going to take these off, and I'm just going to kind of like try and keep them in the same area, so it won't be quite so hard for me to remember where I put these. And again, there are still a few little gaps, but we're going to fill those in with some of the other items that I have. And you'll see how that is all going to come together once we get that done. Now, I will tell you, once you start gluing these down, I would not move your wreath, because the Halloween balls on the outside that are already glued down, they are there, but they are not completely secure, and they won't be until you glue all the other ones on top of it. So you don't want to like lift it up, move it around and stuff, because they could potentially pop off. So anyway, I'm just pulling these back so that I can, you know, get these where I need them to be right now. And my goal is to glue the inner ring down first. And so I'm just going to move these out like this, as you can see. And so I'm just going to glue these down. And I did go ahead and use the rest of the lights that I had. So that will be 3 packs of those lights if you do decide to use those. Okay, so I've got the middle ring on, and so now I'm going to move these back down in here because I need to glue the other ring, inner ring on before I do these. So I'm probably going to end up having to look back at my picture to get the assortment if I can't figure it out on these. And so what I'm doing, just so you know, is that I am putting this, these little pieces here down in every other hole. And so to give me kind of a guideline, as you can see, you know, that's how I'm doing it, where I'm arranging it. All right, so I finally was able to get these placed back the way I had them. Like I said, make sure you take a picture of whatever your arrangement is. And so I'm going to start gluing these down now. So you are going to want to place your ornaments, you know, the outer one, glue them down. Then figure out what kind of arrangement that you're going to have for your center. Once you get that done, take a picture of how you want it. Move all of them. Glue your center one down. Then you're going to glue this next outer ring down, and then you'll glue the next center ring down. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down, and I might have to move one or two every now and then while I'm doing this. And something else too, you're going to have to place your glue in different places depending on where you're putting these, because you want your glue to touch wherever the contact spot is going to be. So you know, you may have to lift it up and, you know, put a little bit of glue down if you aren't sure where you want it. And if you have to move any to glue them down, just, you know, make sure you're just doing one section at a time so that you don't lose your place where you had your ornaments before. And so like with this one is actually not going to, the inside is not going to go and touch because it's a little bit on the outside. So I'm just going to put it on its contact point. So I'm going to set it here, and then wherever it's touching is where I'm going to place my glue. And I always glue the ones that's on the inside before you glue like these, how it's placed kind of like outside, because this is actually what's going to be glued to this. So just make sure that you take whatever this outer one is off and make sure these are secured first. Okay, so now we're at a point where we're going to start putting in the fillers, because you've pretty much got your ornaments in here. Now, if you had a smaller set of ornaments, I would say to, do, every other one in like a medium-sized ornament if you had it. I do not have medium-sized ornaments for this one. All I have is the small ones and then these. So I'm going to utilize the small ones and put them in to fill these spaces inside. And then I will put some more small fillers in to cover the rest of this wreath up. And you can see how good this is starting to come together. And something else that makes really good fillers are bells. They do have the little doorknob bells that they always sell for all the holidays, and you could get some of those and just clip those off and use those. But I think you get maybe 5 bells on each one, and you probably, I just didn't want to spend $1 for 5 bells. And when you have, if you make a Christmas wreath, you can get like a whole pack of bells for $1. So anyway, I'm going to secure these down, and then I'm going to open up this, and this is going to be where I'm going to plug all these even smaller holes before I add either the garland or the pipe cleaners. So, we just have to do this in stages so you know what it is that you're going to do. Okay, so this wreath is really sturdy because all the pieces are now hot glued to each other. But I'm taking these little vase fillers, and I'm just going to kind of like plug these little holes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hot glue gun, and I'm just going to put little dots all down through here, and I'm just going to drop these down so that it fills in all these little spaces, or as many spaces as I can with these. Okay, so I'm finished gluing all my fillers in as far as the little balls and everything. And so I'm just going to take this, run a blow dryer over it to get rid of all these little glue strings. And then I'll be ready to add any of the pipe cleaners or the garland. It just depends on how I like the way it looks. I also had got some little back clips. I might see if I can hot glue those in a couple of places. But for the most part, the majority of this wreath is complete. I'm going to go ahead and just pick a few places that I want to wrap this around. And I'm just going to wrap it around like probably the outside ornaments here and there. As you can see how I've done this one. I hadn't secured that down. I just kind of wrapped it around there. And I just think it gives a little added touch to this. Plus, if you have any glue or anything like that showing, it's good that it covers that up. And you don't have to add this at all if you don't want to. You may like it better without it. I just think it adds a little bit something extra to it. Now, this has got wire in it. So technically, if you don't want to, you don't even really have to glue this down. You could just tuck it around and then tuck the end pieces down inside. That's probably what I will do. And you could do some of these outside pieces too. So anyway, I'm going to pick a few of those and do those. And then I'm going to finish this up with my little bats. And of course, you can add spiders to this or whatever you want. But I will tell you, if you're going to hang this up, I personally do not think you should hang these up outside, especially if you live in a windy environment. I had mine outside last year, my Christmas one, and the wind blew so hard that it knocked it off, and it hit so hard on the deck, all of these busted apart. So I lost my Christmas wreath last year that I made like this, but I'm going to hang this inside. And I think this turned out really cute.